Call the House Transportation Committee to order. Is there any introduction of bills? Ms. Williams, if you'll approach the podium.
We would like to ask for introduction of a bill we did last year. It would deal with employment status of drivers for motor carriers, and it has the number RS 0250.
Anybody have any concerns with that? Yeah. Okay. No objections to the introduction? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other bill introductions?
Derek Hine representing Uber, requesting introduction of RS 0188 regarding independent contractor status for transportation network company drivers.
Any questions? Any objections? Okay, it's entered. Anybody else? Okay, if not, we'll get on to the rest of the committee. One, I want to welcome everybody here. I know a number of you have been on this committee in the past. Thanks for coming back. And I know that we have a number of new members. So, for the first couple of weeks or so, we're going to try to do some informational hearings so that everybody's on the same page going forward. This week, or today, we're going to have the Kansas Motor Carriers Association and Director of Vehicles talk about some of the things. You'll get a lot of questions, from constituents about licensing, and they'll be able to help give you contacts for that. We're also going to have ks.gov next week. We're also going to try to have some hearings on fiber in our right-of-ways and how that benefits people in the state of Kansas. And we'll also do Railroad 101 coming up. So you can expect for the next couple of weeks that we'll have a lot of informational hearings. So if you've heard some of that, some of you guys have been around a long time, and it may be the third time you've heard that presentation. I would still encourage you to come so that we can show support for the conferees and the other members. Next, I think we'll move on to introductions. So over in the corner here, we have Jennifer Forrester. She is the committee assistant. So if you have any questions about things that are coming up, be sure to reach out to Jennifer. And she's doing a great job. This is her first time working with the House committee. So, and it's my first time chairing a policy committee rather than a budget committee. So we're both learning together a little bit here. And at this time, we'll turn it over and have staff introduce herself. Jill, do you want to start?
I'm Jill Shelley with the Legislative Research Department.
Eric Adele with Legislative Research.
Chris Wagner from the Office of Revisor of Statutes.
Adam Sievers with Revisor's Office.
Adriana Pavlik with Broadcasting Services.
Can we get Aaron on the WebEx to introduce himself? Adriana. Aaron Clausen. He's a member of research. Okay, I think we're having troubles finding Aaron. If Aaron has a chance, we'll get him back on. Okay. This session, just for you, we're going to try to do a paperless committee. So please bring your laptop so you can follow along with what's being done. We will have a number of copies out front for conferees and constituents that want to attend the meeting that maybe aren't as familiar with our procedures. If you feel a need, feel free to grab one of those. But we are going to attempt to go paperless as much as possible. You will have some, we did get enough presentations, I think, from the Kansas Motor Carriers Association for everybody. So it'll be kind of a hybrid of paperless and paper. In your documents, you should find a copy of our committee rules and conferee rules. If you have a conferee that's wanting to present, I encourage you to share those with your constituents. They'll also be on our committee website. If you lose this, like we often lose all of the documents we get, or they get misplaced because we get so many. So are there any questions? Hey, if not, we'll get into the presentations today. Our first presenter today will be Deanne Williams with the Kansas Motor Carriers Association, and she's going to give us a presentation on Trucking 101. And I just want to preface it with the fact that Kansas, trucking is very, very important for Kansas. As we move goods to market, I remember one time when they were developing the Edgerton Gardner project and the railroads were in here. Someone mentioned that Kansas is beachfront property for transportation. So it's an important industry to our state, and it's important for all of us to know about trucking and how it impacts our roads and our commerce. Thanks. Welcome to the committee, Deanne.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I am Deanne Williams, Executive Director for the Kansas Motor Carriers Association. So I am the new Tom. Tom Whitaker was with us for, 40 years. So I took his place, and he has retired and living the good life right now. So with me is Lindsay Leibach. And Lindsay, she will help with the lobbying and any questions you all might have. So you'll feel free to ask questions from either one of us. And both our cards are in your packet that you received. We stapled those in there. So with that, we'll go ahead and get started. And as we were putting this together, it was one of those, Tom had done this 101 for years and years and years. So we said, well, this will be kind of the Lindsay, Deanne, Trucking 101. So it'll be a little bit different, and we're going to see what we can get done here. So with that, the Kansas Motor Carriers Association, we have people that are members of our association, trucking companies, companies that serve as our allied members. They have, they sell trucks and oil and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, we have those folks. So we work with them as well as many of our other partners. We work with the Kansas Corporation Commission, Department of Revenue, and FMCSA, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. So with that, we think that we have the relationship, and that's one of the biggest things in the transportation portion of this business is being able to contact others and ask questions and get answers for people that we might not know the answer for. So that's kind of where the Kansas Motor Carriers, that's where we fit in. We work on behalf of our members, and we do have a third-party contract with Kansas Department of Revenue for the IRP registration, the commercial vehicle registration. And so we have lots of motor carriers in our office right now. So that's one of the things that we have going right now. And with that, you think of large companies when you think of the Kansas trucking. We, of course, have UPS, FedEx, Old Dominion. We have national carriers, lots of companies, but there are 17,510 companies in the state of Kansas, and that's who has authorities, that's who has DOT numbers. So with that, we look at that and we say, okay, how many of those trucks are maybe the one truck operators? And those are 46% of the trucking companies in the state of Kansas. And we work with a lot of those folks. They're there to drive. They're not there to do the paperwork. And so they need the help, and we're there to help those folks. Some of the fast facts that you will see on our presentation, attachment 1 of the color presentation, that has different information on it, dealing with how many jobs, and Kansas has 73,560 jobs, and that's 1 in 15 jobs in the state of Kansas are transportation related. The trucking industry, they pay $3.7 billion in average wages, and the average wage for transportation company is a little over $50,000. The trucking companies pay 41% of all taxes and fees that are owed by Kansas motorists, and we represent only 13% of the miles that are driven in the state. The trucking industry in Kansas paid $385 million in federal and state road tax. And so that is, on the federal side with the gas, and then on state side with our fuel tax, and then other toll fees, and those, we'll get into that here in a minute. A typical 5-axle truck semi-trailer, the combination for that is, for what they have paid on the state highway user fees, is about $6,500. And that's an annual fee. Plus they pay almost $9,000 in federal highway user taxes. So there's a lot of taxes and fees that the trucking companies pay. As you'll see, we do have different types of motor carriers. We have private, for hire, interstate, intrastate. And so with that goes rules and regulations that they have to abide by with all of those. And with the KMCA, you'll see all the different divisions that we have at the motor carriers. So, if you haul, you pick up and deliver just one thing, then you're going to be in our truckload division. So we have a lot of different ones so that we can, when we have meetings or we need to have one part of the industry, maybe they need to look at something a little bit closer. And so we'll contact those folks that are members of that part of our division, and they will have a meeting. Oil field fluid carriers, then they were like that, several years ago. They would have to get together because of some of the regulations. And then we have operating authority. You just can't buy a truck and go out and start running that truck, or you shouldn't anyway. And you do have to have a DOT number, and that's a federal DOT number. And then if you're going to operate in the for-hire business, say I'm going to pick up commodities in the state of Kansas that maybe have come into Nebraska Furniture Mart, and I'm going to haul them out west, and I'm going to go take them to Colorado, I'll have to have federal authority to do that. And then if I do get that federal authority, of course, there's filing fees, and then you have to have process agents. If something happens, I'm not a resident of that state, then they have to serve papers to someone. If there's an accident, then they would serve them to a process agent, and that process agent would send that paperwork to me. And of course, we have to have insurance. And then we have the uniform carrier registration, and those fees are on the other side of your paper. We talk about different fees that we have, and those are listed. We used to have what was called a bingo stamp, and they had to put that on each card and have the operating authority for that state. Well, this is a lot different than that. They pay the one fee, and it goes into the uniform carrier registration, and then they send it out to the states where the money is to be collected. And I know Mike and Gary, they'll visit with you about that on Thursday. The Kansas intrastate for hire, that would be if I was going to pick up and deliver within the state of Kansas. Then there's a $250 application fee and then $10 per vehicle unless you pay that through your UCR. Of course, there's insurance that has to be filed and you attend a safety class and so we'll help motor carriers with those applications if they need that. And then we have private carrier authority in the state of Kansas. There is the application fee. It's just the $100. It's not the $250. And there again, we have to have the insurance and they go to a safety class also. Next, we'll talk about truck registration fees. And as we talk about that, we have two different types of carriers. You have someone that's going to go interstate, and so that means they're going to have they're going to pay a registration fee to each and every state they go to. And so with that, that's done through the International Registration Plan or the IRP. And Kansas is a member. Everyone has to be a member of the IRP. And the carrier's going to come in, and it used to be that they could tell us what states they were going to go to, and then we would charge a registration fee for that. Well, we don't do that anymore. They get a cab card, and their cab card's like our registration on a personal vehicle. Then it lists each and every state that they will go to or have the opportunity to go to, I should say. And then they will have the weight listed next to that state. And then they're going to pay the fee that state would charge for the miles that would be driven in that state. So, you say, well, they don't know what states that they're going to go to in the miles. Well, what we did several years ago through the IRP was we put together all the trucks the mileage that came into the state of Kansas for our Kansas carriers. And then we broke that down by jurisdiction. And so each year we have to go through and get that mileage chart redone. And so then if I'm going to go to New York, then I'm going to pay a percentage of my fees to the state of New York. I pay them all to the state of Kansas, and then the state sends them to the IRP clearinghouse. So you're going to pay a portion of a state's registration fee. And then if we're going to do IRP for our vehicle because we're going to go out of state, then we're going to have IFTA also. And IFTA is International Fuel Tax Agreement. And that is a license so that when you go into another state, then you're going to file a quarterly report. And this is on your fuel. And so if you buy fuel in that state, then you're going to get then you'll list that on your quarterly report. And so then by you'll have your total miles, your total gallons, and then that's going to go into your miles per gallon. And then you're going to, divide that and say I have 100 miles in Kansas and I get 5 miles the gallon, then I'm going to pay on 20 gallons of fuel. Well, if I didn't buy any, then I'll have to pay on that 20 gallons of fuel. And then I would have probably bought in another state, so then I might get credit for that state. And so then it's all done through that consolidated report, and the state of Kansas then gets that in to the Department of Revenue, and then they figure out, okay, this carrier has, spent this much money, and so they go through the consolidation, and then they send it out to the IFTA clearinghouse, and then the IFTA clearinghouse sends that money to the places that it needs to go. And we do have other taxes that we pay beside the IFTA and the IRP and the motor fuel taxes. We have federal highway use tax, and that's due July 1st or by the end of August. And it is for any vehicle over 54,000 pounds. And so if you have a truck that is 80,000 pounds, then you're going to be paying $550. And that's an annual fee per vehicle. And then that has to be shown at the time that they do the registration. So when carriers are coming in to do registration with us now, then they have to bring a copy of that 2290 showing that it's been paid. We have federal excise tax on tires and the federal excise tax on new equipment. So all of those taxes are in there also. And let's see. Now we have our size and weight. Just touch on this a little bit because I know KDOT will probably do quite a bit of that. We have different lengths and widths and height, and if anything is over the actual 59.6 in length, then you would have to have a special permit, and anything wider than 8.6 feet wide, then you have to have a special permit. And if you have anything that's higher than 14 feet, you're going to have a special permit. And all of that is purchased through Kansas Department of Transportation. And then we have a few longer combination vehicles you may have seen on the turnpike where they have the 253-foot trailers. Then they have to get a longer combination vehicle and then also triple trailers fall under that also. And those are on the turnpike. And you have 10 miles from the end of the turnpike each end or wherever you may be getting off, to separate that. And once you get the separation done, then of course you're no longer on the longer combination vehicle, but you do have to have a permit for that. And then we have safety requirements for commercial vehicles. Anything with a weight rating over 10,000 pounds, then you have to have different safety items. If you transport over 16 passengers, and this is for safety, this would not be for registration, just safety only on this definition. Of course, we have hours of service, and if you transport hazardous materials, then you have to have certain endorsements for that. Commercial vehicles and drivers, they have to have different, the vehicle markings, driver qualification files, emergency equipment, lighting, liability insurance limits, and then of course handheld devices not allowed. So that's one of the things. And of course, load securement, inspections, repairs, hours of service. So, all of those things are things that the trucking industry has to pay attention to. And as an owner of a motor carrier or an owner of a company, then, you definitely have to pay attention to that. And those are things that KMCA helps motor carriers with. And of course, we have drug and alcohol testing, and then commercial driver's license. Then I'm sure David will probably be covering some of that, so I won't go into that. And what I'd like to do now, real quick, is the information that's on the right side of your handout there. Then we have the different things. We work with Atri, and they are a company that puts all this information together. And so we've gotten the truck driving, trucking drives the economy, and it just tells about how many jobs and the taxes and then safety items. And then we went ahead and put in the electric vehicle stuff, the charging infrastructure. So that's in your packet also. We have this, and I found this very interesting on the, it would be attachment 3, talks about the different rankings per state by how much your registration fee is and the diesel costs and that. And Kansas ranks number 18, and our neighbor to the west, Colorado, they rank number 1. So they have a lot of fees they have to pay out there on new purchases and on just different things that they have in their statutes. We have an item here, and it's FMCSA telling us about how many different motor carriers that have the DOT numbers. And as you see, we have grown each and every year. So we're up to 17,500 now. And so I found that one to be interesting. The next one is attachment 5 is our ELD and hazmat training. Kansas Motor Carriers has partnered with the state of Nebraska to offer the theory portion of the entry-level driver training. You may have gotten calls on this. People saying it's going to cost me $5,000 to get this training. And so anyway, we just wanted to give you this. So if anybody has any questions, you could have them give us a call, or, they can go online and enter into this if they would like. Attachment 6, we've just got the registration fees. We went ahead and put those in. And then on attachment 7, that's the commercial vehicle fee that we did several years ago. Took the place of the motor carrier property tax. And so those fees are right here if you ever have any questions. And then we've gone into what's in statute as far as the oversize, overweight, and then we've even got some pictures out here for you, which makes it a little bit easier to understand how the different weights on, you have your straight truck, and then you can go up to have your triple axle trailer combination. So it tells you the different weights and the spacings and that type of stuff. So anyway, that is pretty much a run through on what we have. So if you have any questions, be happy to answer those at the appropriate time.
Do we have any questions for Deanne? I know there's a lot of information there. Representative Ballard?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was intrigued when you mentioned that Colorado was number 1
Yes.
on attachment 3, and I looked, Arizona is number 2, and 3 is Maine. What criteria are they using?
All of that is their fuel tax, their registration fees, the other taxes that the state may impose. So I know, in Maine, they have the trailers. You can get a non-expiring forever tag in Maine for your trailers. But I think you have to pay some fees there. And so I wonder if that's not going into what that is.
The reason I'm asking, because Maine is much smaller than Arizona.
Right.
And then I looked at Colorado, but yet they're very high.
And I think it's because they have all of those trailers in their state, because, you drive around and you'll see anybody, they may have a Kansas tag on the front of their truck, but they may be having a Maine tag on that trailer. And so there's so many tags so many people registered in Maine just for that reason.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions? Hey, I don't see any. Thank you very much, Dan. And congratulations on your new position. We'll miss Tom, but you're going to do a great job. All right. Next presentation will be by David Harper, the Director of Vehicles for the Kansas Department of Revenue. Welcome to the committee, David.
Good afternoon, and thank you. Yes, David Harper, Director, Division of Vehicles. And I hope we did provide a handout. Does everyone have that or electronic copy? Okay, great, because we'll be kind of walking through that with you. I appreciate the invite today and appreciate the chance to come early in the session so we can kind of provide you an overview of our division, the different responsibilities of our division, and most importantly, hopefully provide you some contacts today. As the chairman said, you will get questions on licensing plates, different things. So we'll hopefully give you a good overview of our operations. First of all, we do have our leadership team with me today. So I did want to introduce them briefly and then kind of cover the areas they're responsible for, and their contact information is on the second slide in for your information. But we have Liam Phelps. This way, Land is our vehicle services senior manager, so they're responsible for everything to do with vehicle registrations, the license plate design, license plate issuance. They work regularly with the county treasurers who are doing the registrations, but we We provide and manage the vehicle registration system and the commercial vehicle registration system through Leanne's team. We work closely with the Kansas Automobile Dealers Association and meet periodically with the Dealers Advisory Board on issues concerning them. We also provide the licensing for auto dealers and salespersons. So occasionally there'll be a issue come up with a transaction with a dealer. We have a process where we can help people, your constituents, get through there if they have an issue. Ken's our driver services senior manager. So Kent oversees 7 regional and office managers across the state, and they're responsible for all issues related to driver's license, IDs, CDL issuance. It's a big job. It's the biggest portion of our staff. I mean, I'll talk with Kent, and we kind of laugh at what his days look like. Because one day he's the IT expert working on our driver's license system. Next thing he's working on a building maintenance for one of our offices. Customer service is a huge issue for Kent and myself, so he continually works with those with our employees across the state. But anything regarding an issuance, a concern with the driver's license office, requirements for a real ID, requirements for a CDL, Kent would be a good contact for you to start with. We have Lacey Black. Lacey is our driver solutions senior manager. So while Kent's team's doing all the issuance, Lacey's team is responsible for maintaining all the records on driver's records for every Kansas driver. So they're tracking and applying sanctions, suspensions, revocations, reinstatements. So people that have come into some issues with their driver's license, they'll reach out to Lacey's team and they'll work with them on complying with law and getting reinstated on a timely manner. They work very closely with law enforcement, with the courts, and then a big part of her group is a call center, helping out customers with, like I say, with issues on their licenses and getting that paid. I list Christy Karlovitz. She's not here today. She kind of works behind the scenes, but her team provides all the training for employees, not only state employees, but county employees in all our systems. So on the vehicle side and on the driver's side, they also run a quality assurance team that goes out and does audits each year on our third-party vendors, Deanne's group, on the county treasurer's office, and in our operations in our driver's license offices. So they have a multi-role there. And then Jessica Tyson. Jessica is the product integration manager. And this is a position we created about a year ago. And really the goal is just to keep us looking forward. Technology changes so fast, and then there's different systems that can help our operation, that can provide better services for the customers. So Jessica works with the managers, with our IT, with vendors to keep us current, keep us looking ahead, what we can do to add more services for our people. Jessica also oversees what I'll call our public outreach program. So we've been trying to do more and more outside the offices of our driver's license offices. So Jessica oversees we have oversight now over the driver's education schools in the state. And then we also have what's called a mobile team that goes out and does driver's license issuance outside of our offices. And we'll talk a little bit more about that, but Jessica oversees both those as well. And I will just say, if you have a question you're not sure who to go to, I'd start with Jessica. You might circle her contact information, but if she can't get an answer for you, she can get you to the right person. Go to third page in on staffing. Did want to just kind of give you an overview of what our division looks like. So we have 385 employees, about 15 or positions. About 15% of those positions are vacant. It's probably a common story you'll hear from other agencies. Staffing's a challenge, has been a challenge primarily since COVID. We were at about a 6% vacancy rate early in 2020. So that's just continued to grow. The issues we hear are salary and remote work options. So especially for our biggest impact has been on our driver's license examiners because they can't work remotely. And that definitely is an attraction for employees these days. You can see on our driver's license examiners, we're running about 15% vacancy, which does impact what we can do in our offices. I will say, I think I've started to note, and I think Ken will agree, I think we're seeing a slowdown in the turnover rate. So we're hopeful. we were able to get our driver's license examiner a pay increase in October. So their now starting pay is $16.56, and then a small raise was given to the staff already on board. So we're hoping those will have some impact on our operation. The next page, I did want to talk probably in more detail on driver services just because it is such a large piece of what we do. So about 70% of our staff is dedicated to driver services. And we partner, we have 48 offices. Some of them are in courthouses, but they're staffed by state employees. And then we partner with another 78 counties on driver's license services where they provide the staff, we provide the training and the equipment. We do on average over 700,000 transactions a year in the offices. About 90% of those are done by the state offices. So we realize that for a lot of Kansans, their one connection with Kansas government is when they come in every 4 to 6 years for that driver's license, when they come to our DMV. So we take that responsibility very seriously, and when we continue to try to improve that customer service. I will and any feedback we get from you, when you get complaints, when you hear of something good or bad, please share that with us, and we'll try to address the situations. But it is a big duty. We've just continued to try to improve that as we go. But customer service is one of our top priorities. I did one on page 5 with our staffing challenges with COVID, different things. There do come occasional temporary office closings. So just wanted to provide you a list of the closing we had during this past year. And the first date is the date they were closed. The second date is the day they reopened if they were closed for more than one day. Our primary reasons for closing have been COVID. Unfortunately, or fortunately, we've gotten pretty good about when there's a COVID outbreak in an office, shutting down quickly, coming in, doing a deep cleaning if we need, and getting reopened within one day. But staffing has caused some shutdown in some of our offices. And we just have some building issues sometimes where the heat's out or the water's out, something. But this is what we had as far as 2022 for closings. When they do close, and important for you to know and the constituents to know, those that have made an appointment with an office, they're going to get a direct email immediately upon that closing. Usually we have very short notice when we're going to be closed. So putting out a press release usually is not a good option, but we do send out a notification to those that registered with an appointment, and then we'll also utilize social media for those closings. I think at the bottom of that page before I move on, they want to notice there is a couple closings coming up, and we'll talk a little bit more about these. But these are due to some office remodels that we will be doing. Garden City will be closed January 11th through January 13th, which is this week, to do a remodel there. And then our Mission office is going to be closed Friday through the 13th through the 23rd for what I would consider a long overdue remodel to the Mission office. We went out for an RFP looking for a better location several times, and we're unsuccessful. So we finally reached an agreement to do a remodel for that. The staff in Mission will be reassigned to other area driver's license offices, so our number of customers that we can service should stay the same even during these closures. Page 6 did one just provide you a map of where we're located for our driver's license offices. You can see on the map there's some arrows. Some of our offices we're only there 1 or 2 days a week. We travel. We send examiner from one office to another, so we utilize a traveling system. The one update I'll mention on this map that is not correct is in Scott County, in Scott City. Right now, there's no driver's license services there. We had been providing an employee for the county and to work at the county. There was issues there, did not work out. Ken's just finalized an MOU with the county where they're going to hire the employee. We'll provide the equipment, provide the training. And so we're hoping here very soon we'll have driver's license services going to gear there. So, and when they're back on, we will have either through the county offices, through our travelers, or through our main offices, we'll have coverage in all 105 counties. Page 7, the next page, which is Kansas Division of Vehicles appointment information. This is the site. This is our appointment site on our website. And I'm going to talk appointments several times a day. appointments, we now have appointments available, online appointments available to be scheduled in every office in the state. We work with a private vendor on the larger offices. We work with KIC, NIC. They've provided a service for us for the smaller offices. It's been kind of our savior through COVID, having those appointments to where we were able to cancel, notify people for monitoring traffic. It's cut down wait times tremendously having the appointments. So the more you and we can get the word out to help make people aware of that appointment system, it's better for the customers and it's better for us. You can we do take walk-ins. Sometimes we get complaints that, hey, I showed up at the office and they turned me away. So we're appointments preferred. If somebody shows up without an appointment, we're going to try to get them in, but we're going to get them in after we process those with the appointments. For the big offices, you can schedule ahead 90 days out to get an appointment for that first block of offices. For the smaller ones, you can schedule up to 60 days in advance. Page 8 is just kind of our current status of our state-run offices, and I know people like to see what's in their locations. So, what I've shown here is our state offices, and then our next available appointment as of January 2nd. So you can see at that time, most of the offices you were able to get an appointment within a week. We've had some challenges. I highlighted a few here. Kansas City, Kansas, that office we've had staffing challenges there for quite some time. We've had facility challenges there for quite some time. This is another office we went out for an RFP for different locations and found nothing suitable within a price range we could afford. So we're maintaining where we're currently at. We're down a manager in that office, hoping to get, when that position's filled, that'll help us a little bit on getting staff back up. Lawrence has been an issue as well, just on staffing. We're trying in Lawrence here in the past couple months. We moved some of our full-time positions to part-time positions, hoping maybe students would have some interest in working in College Town. So we'll wait. We're hoping that'll help there. The mission office, again, it's been a staffing issue. I think the good news is we have like 4 or 5 people hired to start at the start of the next pay period. So help's coming. So when they reopen after the remodel, we should be closer to fully staffed. Do want to remind people too, when they question about coming in, expiration on your driver's license, you can renew that up to 1 year in advance. So some people are procrastinators like myself, but there's no need to wait till the week before your license expires to try to get an appointment. You can do it up to 12 months in advance, and you would keep the same expiration date going forward. Page 9 is driver's license offices average wait time. People are always interested in how long they got to wait, and the appointment system has helped us greatly here. So this just shows in our larger offices that have the wait line system that allows us to track wait time. This has been the average minutes customers have had to wait per month during 2022. So this is the time period from when they check in with our greeter, sit down, and then are called up to the examiner station. Once you're up to the examiner station, it's typically right around 11 to 13 minutes for processing time. So look at our average wait times and add that to the processing time. Our goal is to have 20 minutes. 20 minutes from when you walk in the door, check in, have been renewed your license and out. So that's something we're going to continue to strive for. I do want to mention, and I'm sorry some of these page numbers didn't come, but I do want to mention the office upgrades. This team's pretty well been together since the fall of 2017. And I know one of the things that jumped out to us immediately and to the secretary was a large number of our offices across the state were in less than suitable condition, less than suitable locations. So we started a DL refresh project back in 2017. It really got going in 2018. And the little chart in the upper left just shows since we've done that, we've added 2 totally new locations. So we've added during that time period, we added another office in Johnson County and Overland Park. And then we added another one in Wichita West location. And actually the photo upper right, that is of the new Wichita West office. The one down below is of the new Great Bend office that we just opened. you know, I know some of you and where you're from, that Leavenworth, Atchison, were two that jumped out at Kent and I that really needed attention. Leavenworth, we remodeled, expanded. Atchison, we moved to a different location. They were kind of in what I described as a glorified closet. So I think big improvements in both those areas. Winfield, we were in a little Quonset hut out on the airport and on the air base, moved downtown with them. McPherson was one that always jumps out of me. The first time I went there, we were in the corner of a ks.gov garage building. When I walked in the door, there was chairs in the hallway and people were lined up there to get in for their driver's license. I thought, I think I'll come back on a different day. And I did, but we got them relocated downtown. So we're pleased with what we've done with these offices, and that effort needs to continue. Customers and employees, they needed better offices, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that area. I did want to update you on page 11, the Real ID, which has been a lot of talk for a number of years. Department of Homeland Security extended the deadline again. So this will not go into effect till May 7th of 2025 now. Real ID, we started issuing in Kansas, I believe it was August of 17. We're in good shape. We were ready to go. You can see by the graph below, the chart below, as of the first of the year, about 74% of our drivers actually had the Real ID credential. About 95% since we started issuing, 95% of our credential holders have been into our office and either gotten the Real ID or declined to get it. So we were ready to go in Kansas. We were a little disappointed it got pushed back again. Just a reminder, the Real ID will be needed for entrance if you're going to use your driver's license as ID for entrance into a federal facility or for boarding a plane. It's not required for driving purposes in Kansas, so it is optional. But a couple more years, we'll see what happens if it gets extended again. Did want to mention on page 12, here's a list of online services we have, and this is on our website for customers, for industry, for Dan mentioned a lot of commercial motor vehicle links are on here, but we've tried to really boost our online services that we can provide. The top two are just the top ones are scheduling our appointments. The next couple are our renewals. So you can do driver's license renewals and motor vehicle registration renewals online. You know, a couple others I'll just point out. There's a driver's license status check, which is a nice tool if someone's working with Lacey's team, not sure where they're at, what they what the status of their driver's license in. You can go in and type your driver's license number, name, date of birth, and it'll pop back up and give you your current status. It'll also tell you whether you have the documents in place to get the Real ID if you haven't done that already. You can order driver's records. I like the one I go play with sometimes. If there's a personalized plate availability, you can go in and type in what you would like on a personalized plate, and it'll kick back to you whether that's already taken or whether it's one you can pursue. And then they'll have to get by our checks to make sure it's a suitable combination or suitable word to put on a plate. But you can check that there. Page 13, just keep building on the online services. The left box shows the vehicle registration renewals. And this option was available before we switched to our current vendor in 2018. And we're right now, I mean, the number is about 30% this year took advantage of online renewal on your vehicle registrations. I think the number jumped. There's more reliance on it during the COVID years, and hopefully that number is staying up and will continue to grow. The middle box is driver's license renewals, and we just haven't had the adoption rate with those. We're only getting about 4% in this of the total for online renewals for the 2022 year. You know, there's a couple things that go into play there. Once, as people got the Real ID, you had to come in person to get the Real ID. You couldn't get it the first time online, but now that you have it, you can renew online. You have to have a vision test within the past 12 months. Then we have a list drop-down box. You select your optometrist, and we verify that that's been completed. You can only renew online every other renewal period. So if I do it this time in 6 more years, then I'm gonna have to come into the office and get a new photo. But you can renew every other cycle. And as of now in statute, the age is limited to 21 through 64. to take advantage of the online renewals. One thing we're hoping, we want to promote this going forward. Notice here, electronic notification of license renewal. One thing we worked with the legislature last year or the year before to get passed was everybody gets those yellow postcards telling you when your renewal's coming. Probably lose them before your renewal date, but we now have people can opt in to receive electronic notification that your renewal is coming due. So one of the big advantages with that is we can include links to online renewals, the appointments, different things. So right now we have about 61,000 that have opted to receive electronic notification instead of the postcard, and we're hoping that'll continue to grow as well. Another online service just wanted to mention is that we talked about this a little bit last year, but Kansas did go live last August with the National Motor Vehicle Title Information System. And I think it was August of 21. Yeah, this is the first slide from last time. It's August 21 we went live. And really this system allows for a system check on vehicle history, title history, odometer readings, theft of the vehicle. Kansas was kind of behind the game on this. We were the 49th state to go live with it, which really, I think, put us at risk. Kansas could be a place people could come dump cars that have bad titles, theft, something. So us getting up and going with this is something that was needed. It's been a learning curve. Leanne's team does a good job training dealers in the counties on this. There is an option. You can go to our website just as a consumer dealer. You can pay a fee, but you can go out and just do your own search if you want on a title before you purchase it. So good, it's good service, and that's listed in our online tools. I also want to mention page 15. In addition to online services, we got a couple of things now that people can do from home. So one is a practice test. We set this up several years ago with NIC to where you can go in and talk to your Alexa and say, let me take the practice Kansas driver skill test, and they'll start popping you up questions. I know I've shared that with some of my nieces and nephews and family, and they really like that, especially the ones that didn't pass their first time. So it's a neat little tool. And then we've also, we entered a pilot back in 2021 to allow people to actually take their written exam at home instead of having to come to the office. We've been monitoring that. The pass-fail rate is very consistent with when they come into the office. It's right around 70 to 75% pass. We were able to add a Spanish version of that in 2021. But again, this was a pilot program, so we are going out for bids here in 2023 for a permanent solution. We've had about 17,000 people have taken advantage of this, so it's been fairly popular. And I think what's kind of neat is about 20% of those people are taking those tests on the weekends. So it's another service where people can do some things without having to do it 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. I want to talk a little bit about our public outreach and our mobile operations. We started a partnership back in 2021 at two correctional facilities, Lansing and the Topeka Correctional Facility, where they it's almost like a remote desktop, but our people kind of remote into the facility, and we can issue IDs to their residents prior to release. So they walk out of there with an ID before they are released from the facility. I think it was a challenge getting it up and going, but now it's been a success, I would say. So for those two facilities, we're doing that remotely. For these other facilities, we're requested fairly often to take our mobile unit team, go to those facilities, and again, issue IDs on site, so they're not having to come to our office. And they, again, it's a big advantage to them to have that ID before they walk out of that facility. Page 17, just a little bit more on our mobile operations. We've partnered with AAA. So right now in Lawrence and Wichita, one day a week in each AAA office in those cities, we send one of our mobile units and one of our examiners, and they do driver's license renewals out of the AAA offices. Again, the more we've done, I think with about 1,200 transactions in 2022. So those are 1,200 customers who were able to get their license without having to come into our office. Helps with the traffic. It's been a good partnership with AAA. It's our equipment. It's our it's our staff. They provide the space. Obviously, they're getting people coming into their office, but they've talked to us. I think they'd like to expand it to another location in Wichita, I believe, and they're also looking at Topeka, maybe utilizing that. Did want to mention again on page 18, just on the mobile operations. Again, what this is, we have a team right now. It's just 4 examiners, but we have equipment they can take out, set up your remote locations, and do the exact same transactions you can do in one of our driver's license offices. So this has been popular. We started it right before COVID, and then COVID kind of put it to a halt. But now it's gaining in popularity again. The list I have on page 18 is some of the places we went and set up at during the 2021 and 2022 years, like the university events. When we go and set up there, those are very popular with the students. You don't have to get your license in your home county, your home city. So that's been very popular. Tallgrass Senior Community they've loved us coming there. These people can maintain their ID without having to worry about how am I going to get to the driver's license office, those kind of things. So they love having us there, and we'll continue to go there. VA, we've done it in Wichita, and it was well received. I think we're looking to try to expand that to other VA locations around the state. Page 19 is just our schedule of what we have for the mobile unit for the first quarter of this year. You see, it's quite a wide variety. We've got juvenile corrections. We're going to Dodge City, going to Hutchinson. We do a regular event with Highland Park High School here in Topeka. And I mentioned this mainly just to make you guys you aware of it, and as you talk to your constituents from your areas, if they have suggestions for us, please have them reach out, and then reach out to Jessica. We can of events maybe we can go to them and set up that would be well received and would have a good turnout. We've done partnerships with Sedgwick County and Shawnee County government, done events for their employees. We went to the state fair this year and set up a booth. And the day I was down there, the main question that people came up to get it, they were asking if we were legit or if there was some kind of fraud. How can we issue a driver's license from the state fair booth? But after we convinced them, it was well received. So it's the mobile unit is something we're kind of excited about and could use help, hoping to continue to build that. Last thing on the public outreach, we did add a public outreach administrator here in the fall of 2022. And mainly this is to deal with growing number of requests we've had to go to events. And when we think this is going to take off even more. A lot of jurisdictions have clean slate days with city and county jurisdictions. They love having the driver solutions team there so they can help them pay fines, do whatever on driver's license issues and get their driver's license reinstated at that time if possible. The picture we have is just from an event in Wichita that's become a fairly regular event. And it's a Second Chance Thursday. Wichita Police sponsors this, and they asked us to start attending. So again, the driver solutions could help with people that have suspensions or whatever, revocations, whatever on their records. Popular events and something I think is going to continue to take off for us. But again, keep us in mind if you know of some events that could be helpful in your communities. Dan mentioned a little bit about commercial driver's license, but I just wanted to follow up on that last year, especially Representative Minix. Remember, I think we had discussions on the entry-level driver training. I think the results are it worked out. It's been good. But I included some numbers just of our CDL tests that we've issued from the state, and the numbers very consistent in 2022 from 2021 on the number of testing we've done. So it hasn't had an impact on that. I think there was just a lot of unknowns when we started on this. There was a federal requirement by the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration for those who weren't in the committee last year, to where you had to have a course provider provide your courses for your first time CDL to acquire that. And there was fears that the prices would be very high, that there wouldn't be enough providers. But it hadn't proven the case. So there's a link here to the site that if people are interested, they can go look. But right now there's 776 entries of Kansas locations that are registered with this group to offer testing, and those Those can include KDOT's one that has multiple locations. A number of school districts are doing their own testing. Private companies are doing their own testing. So it's worked out well, and I think hasn't had a negative impact that some feared. So just wanted to update you, especially those of you who were here last year and had some concerns. Page 22 is simply just showing our office is dedicated to commercial driver's license reissuance. Again, they take appointments. We strongly encourage appointments, and they're doing a great job keeping up on those. You can get into any of those offices within a week for CDL testing. Page 23, just jumping over to license plate a bit. This is the number of plates. This is the amount that were ordered during the 2022 year, and then shows you the wide variety of plates we have in Kansas. There's 2 pages of this. I think there's 97 plates, if I counted correctly. Some there was no orders during the past year. Others there was up to nearly 10,000 plates ordered. The personalized 2022 is that personalized background, but we have ordered a book we hand out to the committees. Didn't have it in time, but we'll get that to you. That just shows every license plate that's currently in production. So as soon as that gets in, we'll get it up to the committee and the legislative research for you to have. Just would like to remind you that you'll get requests for new plates, and when we get those, Leanne's team will work with the sponsor of the plate. They'll work with our vendor, and they'll work with law enforcement on that design to make sure what they want is something we can do, something law enforcement's comfortable with. It's a readable plate. So as you get those requests, the earlier those sponsors reach out to us and start talking design, the better off we are. But page 25, just wanted to show the 2 new plates that are now in production for us, and those are the Bronze Star and the Silver Star. Just began production right at the start of the year. These can be issued to any service member who was awarded the respective medal, and the spouse or other family member may keep that upon death of the service member. There are some others that are at various stage in progress, and we'll update you on those plates as they go into production. And did want to just hit kind of some of the things that are on our radar for this year. Number one is a mobile driver's license, an MDL, and this is something other states have put into effect. Something we're wanting to kind of move forward exploring. What it is putting your driver's license on your phone, and it can be updated instantly. It doesn't eliminate the requirement to carry a hard copy credential to get the hard copy credential. Well, we would like to start exploring those options, whether it become whether we need legislation to do that. It is one of the topics. We would probably like to go out here in 2023 with at least a request for information for different vendors on what can be provided. We've talked to several vendors a couple of years ago, and technology changed. Things have changed a lot, but and one of our priorities would be continue to work with law enforcement on their acceptance of that mobile driver's license. But there's benefits to it. I think, some of the states, a lot of the retail companies or liquor stores or bars, they like having it. They can get a scanner. You can put your phone on there, and you can control what information they get. So if you're walking into a nightclub and a bouncer's checking your ID and you don't want them to have your address and all that, you can secure what information. So there's a lot of neat things you can do with that be beyond just the ID purposes. My opinion is we probably won't have a huge demand for it until the airports start accepting that when you enter, instead of having to show them your ID. If you can just scan your phone, once that starts happening, I think people are going to want that, and I don't think we're too far away from that coming into place. There are a couple airports now I know which is accepting that. An item I had on here was a medical advisory board. Lacey's team, they also have what's called a medical vision team. So we'll get concerns with the medical capability or vision capability, psychological capabilities of someone to drive a vehicle. Are they safe to be on the road? And Lacey's team tries to make that determination, but we rely heavily on a medical advisory board to help us with areas we just don't know. And we've struggled to keep that board occupied. I think right now it's like $35 they get per review. So it's not financially, it's not going to attract the physician. But we've had one member for quite a while. We just, I believe, have added two more. But we were talking about maybe coming with legislation, but instead, I think Ted Smith, our attorney, and Lacey Black thought, good idea. We're going to work with KDOT with their safety councils and some other groups, and just kind of look at our procedures now in place and see what everybody thinks we can do to kind of improve participation in that board. And it may end up needing to come to you for legislation, but we're wanting to explore that first. Also on our plate, on Leanne's plate, is we do have an issue where there's some duplicate plate combinations on the specialty plates. So I don't know if I'm giving the right example. You could have the same combination on a antique as a commercial, whatever. So problem is when they're going through readers on the turnpike, we'll get a call. It's occasionally that, hey, I got a bill that says I was in New York. I never was. So it's an IT project and a pretty big IT project to get that corrected, but that's definitely top on our priority list for this year. There's no duplicates on the standard plates. So the majority of the plates are just our standard plate, no duplication there. It's limited to those specialty plates, but definitely something we need to address. Leanne's also wanted to modify our personalized plate combination reservation file. We'll just make it easier for people on the personalized plate, make it more effective for us. And then we're just going to continue to build on our electronic services we provide. I think there's a lot of opportunity there. So that's kind of what our goal list is for the year. And with that, I can stop, and myself or any of our experts be happy to take any questions you may have.
Do we have any questions? Representative Minnings.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to commend your department. I've had a few constituent requests that I've forwarded on a lien release or things that are really unique. One of them was a past chairman of this committee from years ago. Your departments did an excellent job. I appreciate that. I have a question though. Where are license plates made? Maybe I should have asked Leanne to come forward, but I'm sure you can answer that.
Yeah, it's Center Industries in Wichita.
So they're all made in Kansas by Kansans?
Yes.
Thank you.
Representative Delperdane.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you again.
Yes, sir.
A couple of questions, if the chair will allow here. Last year, we passed some statutes for, I'm going to call it outdoor sports. There was like a hunting license plate and a fishing license plate. And part of that, it gave you access to state parks. I did not see on the list as far as being sold, but is it available today?
You help me out that, Liam? Is that one that's coming in? Okay. But that plate though does allow them entrance to the park from the legislature. That plate's not there yet. Correct.
Okay, but it is on for this year or?
Leanne, can you go up to the mic? Yeah, that's fine. It's just we got people at home and
yeah. So that plate is still, those 4 plate options are still in design. They came forward with some designs that weren't quite going to work for law enforcement. They weren't readable by plate readers. Excuse me. So we had to kind of go back to the drawing board. I think they've come up with some new designs. Now we need to test them, move it forward. So hopefully we'll see those out in the next few months.
Okay. Before you sit down, Chairman, if I may, I'm going to skip to my third question I had because you're standing there. Last summer, I got approached by an individual constituent who does restoration of antique military vehicles. And for the sake of the discussion, picture a Jeep, a 1942 Jeep. So it's a small vehicle. They were not originally designed to have a license plate on them, but they were issued a military number that could be printed on the hood or the bumper. He asked if I could possibly run a bill to allow that to be used, but I'm questioning, is that possible? Because you talked earlier about license plate or tag readers and so forth. Can you foresee an issue if I was to do that? Because I have not decided at this point.
I think that would be something that we could probably discuss offline.
Okay.
If you could get me a little bit more information, it would certainly be helpful. Are you talking about the actual plate,
Well, yeah,
not the
he
VIN
says, I'm
plate?
not concerned about the revenue, the cost, but the original vehicle did not have,
No
it
logo.
wasn't designed to have a license tag on it.
Yeah.
So,
I think it's something that we would also want to probably bring law enforcement into the conversation.
okay.
Since,
If I get a contact info after this.
sure, yep.
Then one more, if I may. Last year we went through, well, it was 2 years ago, a couple of years ago, we went through the antique auto tags for vehicles 35 years and older and how it was just based on the VIN or the year of it. Have the issues been worked out? And the reason I'm asking, I've gotten several, it's really weaned off, but I've gotten several calls early on because they went down to the tag office and were absolutely turned away. No, you cannot, because you've got aftermarket plate or items on this vehicle. So the question is, has that been worked out? I have not heard a lot of complaints lately, but they pop up here and there.
There could have been some issues in the beginning. We feel like things have worked out. We've worked closely with KHP. We're all in agreement on what constitutes an antique. The question we might have if a customer presented with something is we might send them back to KHP for an inspection. But yeah, generally we have not run into a lot of issues over that lately.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Representative Neely.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to share with you that one of the highlights of being a representative I experienced here about 2 weeks ago when I went in with a hero that got the very first Bronze Star and the second Bronze Star plate A01 and A02 in Tonganoxie. And to see the smile on his face and everything was great. So thank you very much.
That's great. That's great. Thank you.
Representative Hoheisel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, David, for that presentation. Back to Representative Minix's question about Center Industries. That's in my district, not far from my house. It's a great Kansas company. I believe half their workforce are members of the IDD community. So it's a great, and if you're ever in Wichita area, you would like a tour of it. They do other things. They have other government contracts, as well as the license plates, but it's a great company. I just want to get that plug in. One question about a few years ago, and I think it might have been Deanne. I had the question for then. Allowing for personalization of the specialty plates. We had that discussion, and I believe the fiscal note on that was rather high due to some, I guess, database issues. Do you guys have any thoughts on that now? Is that something we could look into this year? Because I do have several constituents that have reached out to me that do have specialty plates that they would like to get personalized on top of that.
Man, you could, because we have had that talk, and I think there's several now that you can.
No, well, we have a couple of personalized plate options. We have the standard background. We have the powering the future background. You can get a personalized disabled plate. Before we move forward with personalizing like any background, especially like the distinctive plates, one of the priorities we had listed on our presentation was a reservation file. That reservation file is really needed before we can introduce a lot more personalization, because we have to track the backgrounds. We have to track who requested that combination, because you buy that combination and you reserve it for those 5 years. We've had issues where people relinquish a combination to a family member or a friend or whatever. We just have to have a way to track it, and currently we don't. So that's our database issue. We're in the process of building that. We have something in test now. So hopefully we'll have that resolved soon.
8 months? Are we talking months?
We're talking months.
By the end of the summer?
That would be my hope.
So if
Can't guarantee
we
it.
introduce some legislation and said, January 1 of next year, would that be something that for your guys' timeline?
It would be that would be a I would say kind of a bit of a tight timeline, but potentially, depending on what else you guys pass, something we could do.
It would be better than July 1.
Yes.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
that's
Mr. Chair.
what I thought.
Thank you.
Maybe we can do that.
Representative Collins.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was just wondering about the license notification, like, for renewals, the yellow postcard, I guess it is. How often before expiration is that sent out?
Now you see why I brought these people along.
Sorry, I just don't have to yell from there. It's 60 days before your license renews, the date of your birthday.
Okay, because mine's coming up for, my birthday's this month, and mine's coming up for renewal, and it either got lost in the mail or I accidentally threw it away or something, but it was brought, I needed to show my ID for something, and it was brought to my attention that it was about to expire, but I got it renewed. Everything's fine now, but I was just wondering about that, how soon ahead of time that was.
Yeah, it does. And then back to David's point on the electronic one, if we can send notifications, obviously we can send you more because they don't cost anything instead of trying to send a postcard. And then the amount of information we can put on our electronic notification to you is a lot more. I only got so much space on that little yellow card and it's packed full. Most people just pitch it when they see it or they don't read it.
Well, I might have done that. But, thank you, and thank you to Representative Hoy for use of the microphone.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And for the record, Kent, just say your name and title.
Sorry, Kent Selk, Driver Services Manager.
Thank you. Anything else, Representative Collins? Okay, Representative Proctor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Director, for coming today. So last year we passed legislation bifurcating the disabled veterans plate into two different plates. And it has caused quite a bit of consternation in Leavenworth because we have a huge disabled veteran population. My question is, and I'm kind of hitting you with this off the cuff, so I understand if you got to come back to me. But we've got this great big huge VA hospital right there in Leavenworth. And right now, to get a disabled plate, you have to have the signature of the regional director of VA to prove that you're disabled, when anybody in that building could look up on a computer and then sign a piece of paper. So I'm wondering why that is.
Yeah, it looks like she's chomping the answer.
And Leanne
Phelps, Vehicle Services Manager, Kansas Department of Revenue. Thank you. Yeah, we did do that, and it seemed like it was going to be something pretty simple in the beginning. Didn't turn out to be. We've worked as much as we can with the VA office in Wichita, and the gentleman who testified about that bill, about trying to reduce down what we need to require. So we've gotten it now to where only if you want to keep the ISA, the International Symbol of Accessibility, that wheelchair emblem, only if you want to keep that on your disabled veteran plate do you need a doctor's signature. Okay, because being a disabled citizen is one definition in statutes, being a disabled veteran is a different definition. They're not the same thing. So to separate those plates out, if you just want to keep a disabled veteran plate and don't need the wheelchair emblem, then you can just go renew.
So we might be talking, I think we're talking past each other, because what I'm talking about is the certification that you have a disability rating from the VA. Right now, the form
they don't need that to renew.
Director. So
they don't. Okay. Yeah, they don't need that to renew if they don't need the symbol, the wheelchair emblem. Okay. Because they've already certified to that to get the disabled vet plate to begin with.
Okay. Yeah, maybe it's a communication down to the county issue, but they're making them all redo the form.
And I have to admit, it took us a couple of months of iterations of going through renewals with counties to try to work through those kinks.
Yeah.
As far as I know, things are going better now. And but if you're hearing of any issues, definitely let me know and we'll reach out to the counties.
One more question, if I could, Mr. Chair, and this is probably for you. Do you issue the non-driving state IDs as well? Does your office do that? Yes. So this is kind of an elections question, but you're here. Severely disabled people that can't make it to the driver's license office to go get the state ID, how do you handle that?
For them to obtain an ID?
Yeah, state ID.
You want to help? Okay.
This also helps with the mobile unit when he's talking about senior centers or other places. Those guys have gone out to assist them. If they've already been in and had an ID card, they can renew that ID card through the mail if we have a application process they send, we're close to having it, the IDs online when adding it to our process. Also, if you know who they are and if they email or they send anything in, we work with them to get them a license without them having to come into the office as much as we can.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, you have a specific person.
You have to have the state ID to vote.
You do.
And
Yeah.
so that's why I asked. So, thank you.
And I just want everybody on the committee to, I want to thank you, Kent. I know I had an issue this summer and I think I called Deanne's office first and then she sent me someplace else. And I don't know, Leanne might have even got involved in it somehow. I don't remember. But they really do try when we give a call to help us give our constituents exemplary service. So I just want to thank you guys for all of your work helping me when I have an issue. Representative Hobson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your testimony today. I just wanted to find out, I mean, I was looking at your slide, page 9, with respect to the wait time. Is staffing an issue in your agency in terms of the workload? I see several cities, average time is actually higher than others. Are you having a staffing issue in regards to your agency by chance that you're trying to address to actually get down that number that you were talking about?
Yeah, we absolutely are, and it's continued to grow up to about 16% now, 15% now since COVID. Those with the highest numbers, you can tie those to staffing. Kansas City, Kansas to Lawrence, a staffing issue. So we are, and as mentioned, we're trying to address that. We were able to get a across the board pay increase for those entry level examiners. We're hoping that helps. But it's continued to be.
Because I look at, because on your last slide, which is your 2023 priorities, I don't see like a budget increase, to help with either recruiting or retaining staffing, or that's what I'm trying to figure out if you guys are properly staffed, or if you just need more money to actually get the job done in terms of getting that number down.
I to have the wait time, service times where we want them, I would say we're short staffed. And it's been a major focus of ours since we came back after COVID. I think Kent and his team have done a fantastic job shuffling people, trying to keep offices open. We've started in some of our urban areas. We've created what we call travelers. So instead of just hiring somebody to sit in the mission office, we're hiring somebody for the Johnson County, Kansas City area, and they may be in a different office every day of the week. But keeping bodies in the seats is a challenge. Part of it's when people apply, they want to know if they can work from home. And obviously with a driver's license examiner, that's not an option. So it's kind of, I think, combination of salaries and I think the workforce has changed.
Well, I do know that, in almost every sector they're actually, with respect to labor shortages right now. I know that last year I was debating my good friend from Wichita with respect to what we did with the corrections officers many years ago, increasing their pay and actually get that stabilized. So I didn't know if there was the same scenario, same case with respect to your agency, whether we need to find ways to actually retain and actually recruit people into the agency to actually get the wait time and actually, offer, faster services to our citizens here in our state. So I was asking. So I didn't see 2023. I didn't see if a budget was part of it, in your last slide. That's what I was asking.
I guess I would say it's an ongoing issue. And it's ongoing mission.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Representative Ballard.
Thank you. I'll follow up on that. You indicated in Lawrence that you were holding it open because you were thinking perhaps being a college town, you will have students. I could recommend that to them, but the first question they're going to ask is, how much are they paying?
Well, our starting salary now just got bumped to $16.56 or so. That's a starting salary for an examiner. Yeah, we just stopped with Lawrence. We were struggling getting full-time employees. Maybe we could get some students who'd be interested in part-time jobs. And again, in Lawrence too, we do have the AAA partnership, which has been beneficial. But that's what our starting salary is.
Thank you. I think they might be interested. Thank you.
Representative Melton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there any plans for a back the blue license plate? No, Missouri has one and,
I have not heard of any.
okay, thank you.
Other questions? All right. No other questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good job. All right, committee. We're going to meet Thursday. We'll have another informational hearing. It'll be on the KCC. Probably won't last quite as long as getting these two in. The following week, plan on meeting on Tuesday and Thursday. We won't meet on Wednesday, most likely. Somebody else wants to use this committee room that day. So there's no further action or anybody has anything, we're